What's going down, everybody? Brother Stevani's here. Welcome back to the channel. This is Command Center Wargaming, and we're finally going to do a tactical video on one of my favorite units from one of my favorite legions, the Lernaean Terminators from the Horus Heresy 2.0 30k. Alright, so in this video, we're going to look at the base stats. We're going to look at the special rules. We're going to look at loadouts. We're going to talk about army synergies, the pros and the cons. We're also going to have a look at the tactics of the unit. Now, stick around for the tactics of the unit, especially for this video, guys, because this is jam-packed with spice. There's like, I think 6 slides or something for the tactics part. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to give the unit a final does it blend rating. Now, like I was saying, with the tactical section, this unit, the Lernaean Terminators, they play as an Alpha Legion unit. They are a tactical, flexible unit. All right. So I spoke about playing units to their Legion traits and strengths. All right. And approaches and modus operandi in other videos. All right. And especially for this unit. This unit is not as loathed as Atrementar, but there is a bit of debate around the Lernaeans. All right, because, you know, we've got a lot of other good Terminator options for Alpha Legion. In actual fact, you've got more options for Terminators than any other unit, Legion in the game, because you can take pretty much almost all of the other Legion Terminators, right, as your unit. So for these guys to even stand up, you know, on the box in comparison is already a good start. But it's important to understand as we go ahead through this video. All right. Once again, just like Atrementar and Kontakar, if you play this unit like Fire Drakes, you will not have a very good time because they are not Fire Drakes. This can either be a super strong unit or it can be a really underwhelming unit. Okay. So let's move ahead with my little rant there. Okay. But let's go. So what do you get? You get base stats. You get 250 points base, right? That's what they cost to have a baseline unit. All right. They move 6. It's cataphracti. They're heavy. They have line. All right. They're weapon skill 4, which kind of sucks, but they have a lot of other traits, which is going to help you to throw them over. All right. With this, and I'll explain more about that in the tactical video. Ballistic skill 4, strength 4, toughness 4. All right, now they have 2 wounds each, okay, on their base Terminator. So it's pretty much just normal cataphracti stats. However, the Harrower has 3 wounds. 3 wounds. So it makes him extra tough, okay, in the squad. Now, this could be super helpful. All right, super helpful going up in challenges and things like that. Now, yes, you can still be doubled out, but you know, most things can, all right, at that point. But there's a little bit of a theme going on here with the Lernaean Terminators. And, you know, they are actually quite tanky when you go ahead and you stack all their buffs. And we'll go through this in later on in the video. But one thing I want to point out as well before we move forward is that Lernaean Terminators, they're different from other Legion Terminators, and why I don't put them in the same class as Atrementar, weapon skill 4, etc., why it's not, you know, like a massive deal like it is with Atrementar being weapon skill 4, is that instead of just having all their perks in one sort of concentrated field, right? Like, for example, Fire Drakes have that 3-up invul, you know, they're just super tanky. They're the most tankiest things in the game, you know, in terms of Terminators, in terms of, yeah. They, Alpha Legion Lernaean Terminators have multiple good abilities that stack up. So you're relying on multiple good abilities played tactically versus just one really, really strong ability just played like a, you know, I move my man over there and he hits you. That's not Alpha Legion. If you don't want to play strategically and surgically, Alpha Legion probably is not the best army for you. all right, if you want to play competitively. Now, paint scheme-wise, sure. You know, like looks-wise, ruler cool-wise, sure. But, you know, if you are that dude who's like, Terminator should just hit good, then there are better legions for you. Apropos Imperial Fists, alright? So, cool. You know, you just give everyone over a 3-up invul with your Storm Shield, and you be done with it, alright? But that's not Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion is a thinking legion, alright? That's the truth. It's Alpha Legion is the thinking man's legion. And that's actually why I like them, okay? So, they have a 2-up save, they have a 4-up invulnerable save, alright? Standard in Cataphractii armor, all right? Now, the Cataphractii, so that means they can't run, they can't sweep, etc. All right? So, let's have a look at the special rules. Now, a lot of this I'm going to get into more in the tactical section because, again, with Lernaean Terminators, it's not just a forward strategic outline. It's literally the Hydra because a lot of this stuff just looks meh at first. But then you got to have a look at what it synergizes with everything else and situational elements within the game itself. And there are also things that can become a negative in certain situations as well. You know, like I'll talk about it, especially with Hydra and Exemplars, which I'll talk about later. So stay tuned, stay with me here, guys. This is going to be a jam-packed one. I think this is probably going to be one of my better videos, because Alpha Legion are my Legion, Hydra Dominatus. All right. Bulky 2, they count as 2 units, all right? They're Terminators. Deflagonate, that's basically on the Volkite weapon. You get, you know, 1 extra wound if a unsuccessful wound that is already struck has been unsaved. All right. Now, I will bring that up in here because considering Lernaean's default base cost weapon is a Volkite charger, I will explain that here because, you know, usually I'll just go through and I'll just go, oh yeah, that's just a standard core rule. I won't sort of cover it, but it is important. We will be talking a lot about Volkite in this video because they come with it. You don't have to pay for it, you know, so it actually comes in their base cost, right? So then we have the heavy subtype, okay? Re-rolling shreds, re-rolling blast weapons. So things like that. You can't run. Now, Hydra Exemplars, essentially what this means, broken down, because it's a bit of a mouthful, but broken down, what this means is, at the start of the game, like before you basically deploy, you declare, you pick a legion. An Astartes Legion, aside from Alpha Legion, you read the wording, it cannot be Alpha Legion. You pick a legion, and any units that you fight with that squad of Lernaeans that you've declared, you know, is associated with that legion, get a +1 to the hit roll. Now, this can really help with the weapon skill 4 modifier, okay? This is one thing. Now, it's very important to understand that, you know, with Alpha Legion, it's not all cut and dry, all right? There's always a twist, and here and there, a twist and a turn. So it's important to understand that it does say here in the wording, the controlling player of a unit composed entirely of models with this special rule get a +1 hit. So it's important to understand that if all of your models do not have this special rule, this rule will not apply. So if you add a character to this unit, and there are 100 reasons why you want to do that and say, I don't care about that +1 a hit, screw it. And again, we'll talk about that later in the video. There's some spice coming up, guys. I can tell you that right now. The harvesters are out. Then you just need to understand that you are not going to get the benefit of Hydra Exemplars if you put any unit, including a special character or a character, inside this squad. All right? So it becomes null. The other thing is as well, it doesn't work against armies like Mechanicum, Imperial Army, Solar Auxiliary, basically anyone who's not Legion Astartes. So it must be another Legion Astartes Legion. And that also, goes through and confines really well to the army's lore as well. Because if you read one of the books, I think it was Deliverance Lost, you basically see the Alpha Legion, so multi-training, eating a Raven Guard sergeant's brain to learn his tactics and things like that because of all the organs. And yeah, all right, we'll save that for a lore video. But it actually is a really cool rule, and it's a very strong rule too. Either whether you want to just run that baseline with a bare bone 5-man squad, or whether you want to run that with a 10-man kitted out Lernaean Terminator squad, or many, many reasons why that's really powerful. Okay, next rule. It will not die 5 up. So broken down, okay, essentially what this means is that at the end of your turn, you roll a dice, right? Now, that's the end of your player's turn. So your turn, not after a combat, at the end of your turn, you roll a dice, and on a 4 up, one model in this squad can, if you roll a 5, you can regain 1 wound for 1 model on that squad. That model must be alive, and it's only on the 1. And so you don't roll for each guy in the unit, all right? It's a very common mistake that people make. It's only 1 guy in the squad. Still really good, helps to make him tanky. We'll talk about this later, okay? But this is basically how that works in a nutshell. All right, so the Legionaries are Astartes. They got all the access to the rights of war. They got all the access to the reactions and things like that, which actually help these guys out. And as we know, Alpha Legion have a very strong right of war, which is very strong faction trait, which is the -2 inch to engage rule. So for shooting attacks, movement, everything like that, for virtually all circumstances, they're counted as being -2 to hit. Okay, so -2 inches away from that other squad. So there's a litany of reasons why this will help the Lernaeans. They're less susceptible from being charged. They're harder to be shot, etc., 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 etc. All right, and that all sort of bakes in and synergizes in as well with all the other traits as well. You're mixing up a 5 up, it will not die, with being, shot at, at a +2 inches. That's all stacking up to increase your tankiness and your survivability, right? So you can sort of see how, we're gaining the buffs here as Alpha Legion, all right? Also, I'll talk about it later in the video, they synergize really well with the special reaction for the Legion too. It's a bit tricky, but I'll show you. And so they have the line subtype. Now, this is freaking epic, okay? It's most of the missions in Zone Mortalis, all right? So they're scoring missions. They have objectives. You have line. This is nuts because it's very, very, very underestimated, because what you gotta understand is you now have a Terminator unit which you do not have to spend the points for a Herald, okay, the Herald tax, to give this unit line. All right? So depending on what sort of force organization you're going to field, depending on what right of war you're going to field, this allows you to be very flexible, and it synergizes heaps well with Pride of the Legion as well. And if you don't want to run Pride of the Legion, it synergizes heaps well with Calls of the Hydra as well. Because just having that unit being line natively without having to add extra things in it to do that frees you up from having to have things in the in your army with line, getting rid of that line tax. It's actually more appropriate and stronger than what a lot of people give it credit for, everybody. But even just during the whole game, what line does for the Lernaean Terminators essentially means that all game, if you so wish, the return on the investment for this unit, guys, this unit is going to be working for you the whole game. All right? Unlike, say, something like Fire Drakes, where, you know, they're just going to be sitting in the middle of a corridor or sitting on objective or walking up the board or traveling up the board, getting to something a couple of turns, going with their Thunderhammer. And don't get me wrong, I love Fire Drakes. They're like one of my favorite units in the game. These guys are always going to be earning their worth back. Even if they're just sitting there with line scoring for you, you're already putting these guys to use. You know, how many times have you played a game, guys, where you take this unit and you just be like, oh, you know, like it's a parking lot or the corridor's blocked, or you know, for whatever reason, you know, you're just not getting maximum use. Like, you got to understand, like, you want all of your army working for you throughout the game on the tabletop, earning and justifying its point investment. Just by having line on a Terminator like this, everybody, it does that. Full stop. So already, this is a thing, okay? More about this in the video to come. Relentless. Cool rule, you can move while shooting heavy weapons. We'll talk about more about this later. These guys have some sick heavy weapons. All right, some are stronger in different modes of the game, but we'll talk about that. But the fact that they've got Relentless is really good. Stubborn, one of my favorite rules in Horus Heresy for Terminators, right? I've spoken about it in my videos before. Is it fearless? No. But so many times, guys, I've been playing with Terminators, you know, and I love Terminators. You probably tell most of my videos have been Terminators so far. More to come, though. I've been playing so many games, like with Contakar and things like that, with Terminators, with lower stats, you know, the underdog Terminators that have had Stubborn, and they've gotten shredded, you know, they've gotten battered up. But the thing is that with Stubborn, it's like you're always rolling on your base leadership, so you have more of a chance of just sticking in that combat and holding them up for another 2 turns. Guys, sometimes it's better to hold a unit up in combat than what it is to kill that unit, because, you know, like, you want to hold them there. Let the other player think that, you know, oh yeah, and then turn 5 comes, oh gee, I've just, you know, wasted my whole time. It's like a massive bait unit, like Lernaeans as well. They're mad bully unit, mad bait unit. I'll talk about it later. You know, because they actually have the tankiness. They actually have the survivability when you stick all these minimal buffs together to make one big tanky unit. They can actually hold off units really, really well. All right. So Stubborn is huge, and it's even huger on Lernaean Terminators. Okay. All right. Unwieldy. Okay. You know, initiatives, a lot of their weapons, if not all of their weapons, strike at initiative 1. Okay. That is a pretty heavy con, but we'll get into it in a sec. Okay. But it's not the be all and end all. All right. Fantastic. So those are some of the special weapons. Let's have a look at the loadouts. So we have the Power Axe, which is baked in. We have a Volkite Charger, which is baked in, okay, to the points cost of 250. So just at 250 points, you're getting Power Axes baked in, and you're getting Volkite Chargers baked in, all right, on a Cataphractii chassis with a Harrower with 3 wounds. That's already really good. Okay, Power Fists can be taken on everyone in the squad for an extra 15 points per body. Chain Fists, oh, gotta love those Chain Fists on this squad, guys, okay, will cost you 20 points per model. And Power Daggers, 5 points per model. Venom Spheres, the Harrower gets it for free, otherwise 10 points. Volkite Chargers, okay, they'll cost you 2 points. Heavy weapons, so 1 in 5 can take one. And Plasma Blaster, 10 points. Heavy Flamer, 5 points. Volkite Culverin is 10 points. And the Conversion Beamer, or Conversion Beam Cannon, is 15 points. All right, so we'll talk about these more later. Okay. So here is my recommended loadout, like in terms of configuration for the Lernaean Terminators. I run my squads like this. So I run 1 Harrower with a Chain Fist. Now, I only have a Chain Fist on the Harrower, and he also has a Power Dagger, okay? All right, and he has a Volkite Charger, all right? And the other 4 Lernaeans will either take Power Axes and Volkites, or I'll have 3 Lernaeans with Power Axes, Volkites, and then the other one with a heavy weapon of my choice, so a Conversion Beamer, or a plasma weapon, plasma cannon, or the Volkite Culverin, all right? So that's my recommended loadout for him, all right? The Power Dagger, like, you only put it on the Harrower, all right, on the Sergeant, because the thing is, it's going to be wasted on the rest of the unit. Because the Chain Fist is a non-specialist weapon, you're actually going to get in there with the Harrower coming in with 5 Chain Fist attacks on the charge, which is pretty massive, okay, in my opinion. This helps a lot with challenges as well, all right? And again, we'll talk about more of this later, because there's even bigger combos of this, okay? And you're also +1 hit with that. So it could be a really powerful combo. Okay, now it's not cheap to take this configuration from memory. I think it was but it's not expensive either, so it doesn't blow out. The Lernaeans blow out when you like deck out the whole unit with like power fists, and just don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. Okay, I think it was like 285 points or something like that. So it's pretty reasonable. And they're very tanky as well, so they can weather it. So remove the Conversion Beamer for Zone Mortalis, all right? With Zone Mortalis, the problem is the Conversion Beamer, it gets stronger the further you are away. There's been 1 game or 2 games of Zone Mortalis, and Zone Mortalis is, like, I play more games of Zone Mortalis than any other system in version in Horus Heresy 2.0. And the thing is, there's only been 1 instance where I've had this really wide field. Most of the time, even if you do have a long corridor or something like that, you're going to get blocked off somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, your line of sight, your weapon draw distance is going to be blocked off somewhere. So I would not take it for Zone Mortalis. But it is awesome, and you can still take it. But I'll tell you about it a bit later. It's coming, guys, the Conversion Beamer. It's actually one of the things that makes these guys epic. So the idea, and what I'd recommend with any loadout with Lernaeans, is just to keep the unit as close to base as possible. All right, so either just run them as is, stock, right, for 250, or just run them as, with a Chain Fist and a Power Dagger on the Harrower, and the rest stock, okay? Maybe put in a heavy weapon, but that's it. Keep their points down. When you start to just kit these guys out too much, all right, it does explode into extreme levels of craziness, and they can get super expensive, all right? And not worth it. And the thing is too, even though they are a tanky Terminator, they are a sort of defensive Terminator when it comes to dealing with elites. They are not, they're not fire drakes, okay? You know what I mean? So they will start to get doubled out and go down eventually. So just keep that in mind, okay? So the Volkite Culverin is my recommendation for ZM. You can also take it in AOD as well, all right? You can have them sort of midfield, sitting on a midfield objective, just sort of spewing out Culverin shots, Volkite shots from range. But the Volkite Culverin in ZM is quite the balanced choice, between the Conversion Beamer and the walls that are going to be in your way. The Plasma Cannon is okay as well, but I just think that the Culverin's better, especially with the array of units that you're going to be going up against, likely to be going up against in Zone Mortalis as well. All right. It's also, it's I think it's definitely better in ZM. I was speaking to one of my mates, Matt, and he reckons it's actually the better choice overall. I maintain that the conversion beamer's better in AOD. But yeah, it is what it is. That's my recommendation, okay? So, awesome. Next slide. So, the pros of the Lernaean Terminators. They're extremely flexible. They are a scoring Terminator. They have decent shooting. Everybody's got Volkites, all right? You're still getting a 2-up and you get a 4-up, right? With it will not die, all right? So, as said before, you be tanky. They're 2 inches away. The other thing to mention is they've got a really, really epic array of options for transports, right? They could take drop claws, they could take Spartans, they could take Land Raiders, okay? And this synergizes really well with their special reaction, which I'll talk about in a bit. So they're a generalist unit, which is really strong because you can bring them into any situation in any game and they can serve a purpose. They will be strong. All right. So that's awesome. They basically re-roll their blasts against heavy, as we discussed before, and they can be really fast. All right. Good return on investment. Okay. Stacking everything together can be very strong. All right. And a crazy amount of large chain fist attacks. And we're getting to it. All right. Because it doesn't stop at the Harrower. All right. The other thing as well is they could be a really good debuffing unit. Because one of the things that the conversion beamer has, and a lot of people don't think about, or they might think about it, they might know it has blind, but I don't think they've quite understood the implications and some of the strategies that you can do with this tool. Okay? For example, going up against Emperor's Children, all right? Or Invictus Suzerain as Ultramarines, all right? Units that are striking with initiative first, or armies that rely on initiative buffs, okay? You shoot your conversion beamers, a couple of squads or just 2 squads of these Lernaean Terminators sitting up the back, just sitting there scoring while they're working, popping out conversion beamers, which is a 3 template blast. Okay, forget about the damage. All right, they've got a 1 in 3 chance to blind someone, blind a squad, which then brings their initiative down to 1. So, bye-bye Emperor's Children, bye-bye Invictus Caesarian. You can forget about your Legatine Axes now. And then here come my veterans. All right? So, that is really strong. As I said, guys, you've got to think Alpha Legion, right? You got to think like, it's like, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Firefox with Clint Eastwood when he steals a Russian plane. It's like, you want to fly this plane, guys? You got to think Russian. You want to play the Alpha Legion, guys? You want to be successful with them? You need to think like the Alpha Legion, all right? Because these guys, they're on a whole new ball game, all right? They're on a whole other level. They don't obey Horus. They've got their own agendas. They do what they want to do, okay? All right, so let's go into the unit tactics. This is where it starts to get good. So thank you if you've been with me so far. Consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the video, guys. Okay, I'm not one of those guys who goes and spams my crap around the internet. But if you're enjoying this video, legit, please share the video to Reddit groups, the Alpha Legion groups, Facebook, whatever you can. Because the more subscribers, the more views I get on these videos, the more comments I get, the more I'm going to do. The channel's been doing really strong at the moment again. We've got heaps of feedback, heaps of comments, heaps of subscribers coming in. And what you've noticed is, I've been doing more videos, all right? So it motivates me more because I don't earn any money from this. I don't want to earn any money. I'm fine from a day job, right? But I do love the Horus Heresy. So the first tactical opinion is, you need to play Lernaeans and think about Lernaeans like stronger tactical squads, right? That's how you're going to get your mileage out of these guys, all right? So when you're playing them, think about them, launch them into tactical squads. They're bullies. They're mad at picking on units that are weaker than them, okay? So again, that's very alpha legion-y, right? You know, shooting people in the back, you know? So it's just think of him like that. And I guarantee if you start playing Lernaean Terminators as more of a tactical squad on steroids, you're going to start to see a lot better results with them than just throwing him into Justarians, just throwing him into Fire Drakes, just throwing him into Huskars. I would not do this. Just don't do this, guys. You know, they're not designed for that, okay? But yeah. So, and they can easily bully those lesser units, okay? And bully them off objectives because of the line rule. Right? So, you know, you just throw these guys at an objective being held by a tactical unit somewhere that, you know, and they're off, they're gone. They're just going to take that objective and you don't have to commit another unit to score it. See, a lot of the times, you know, it's going to take a point investment from a Terminator unit to get that unit off. And then with another Legion, you've got to bring another unit up to then score it. You could start to see now, guys, how the points for these guys start to actually become good when you look deeply into the unit. But with Lernaeans, yeah, they're a bit more pricey, but you're getting 2 for the price of 1, all right? You know, so the other thing is use Dynat or Alfarius to give them Infiltrate or Deep Strike to get them where you want them immediately. All right. So you have a lot of options with these guys with, you know, getting them into position to getting all these guys on objectives. And then you just like, you know what? Here are my three objectives or my 2 objectives. There's a Lernaean Terminators on 2 of them, right? Sort of, and I've maybe even on my home objective. And then I'm going to run up, take the middle one. Get me off them, guys. And then your army goes ahead and does what it wants to do. And then the other person's army, so you can then concentrate entirely on getting that objective that they hold, flipping that, while you're pretty strong on those objectives. Your opponent needs to then invest a shit ton of resources to shift these Terminators off objectives, especially if they have a Medicae with them. We'll talk about it in a second. So, again, I spoke about them being a really good baiting unit and having requiring a massive investment for the enemy to shift. All right. Okay, so some ways to play these guys. Take 2 5-man squads, right? So with the recommended loadout I spoke about before, and you basically just pepper them around the board. The other one is use the conversion beamers to snipe, right? From the backfields, blinding everyone, putting pressure on the other units as well. Okay, so these are really massive advantages to using them. Now, you can include a Primaris Medicae on the unit for extra durability, all right? Now, it will actually stack with it will not die. And what it will allow you to do, it gives you a reroll of it will not die, right? So you're now repairing a wound on yourself on a 5-up and you can re-roll that, all right? In addition, you're going to get a 5-up Feel No Pain on the unit as well with a Primaris Medicae. Now, with all these synergies and combos, the bigger this squad is, the more it's going to take effect, right? With all the sort of the synergies I'm about to tell you about, right? So obviously, if you've got a 10-man Terminator squad of Lernaeans and you have a Primaris Medicae attached to it, then all of a sudden you've multiplied that unit's survivability by a lot, because you're now buffing 10 dudes in your army as opposed to just 5. So it is expensive though, but if you keep it all base, it's not that bad. All right, just something to think about, okay? If you need like a hammer and anvil. The other thing is that a Medicae is another way to add a weapon skill 5. Yes, this is another way we can mitigate the weapon skill 4 detriment of the Lernaeans, and why I don't put them in the same ouch category as Atramentar at weapon skill 4. Okay, so the Medicae can take a Thunder Hammer at weapon skill 5, Now, this is how you're adding your brutal. So you've now added brutal to this squad. And you're adding healing to this squad. You're adding tankiness as well. All right, so you can see where this is going here, right? The buffs are stacking, guys. The buffs are stacking. All right, you can even give a power dagger to your Medicae, giving him a chain fist instead of the thunder hammer. Now he's rocking up. Now the Medicae as well as your Harrower with chain fist and power dagger is getting 5 attacks on the charge. So from those 2 units alone, those 2 bodies alone, your Lernaean Terminators are getting 10 attacks on the fucking charge. All right? Not even, and the Medicae is weapon skill 5. That's not even including the other attacks that are going to come in, okay, from the axes in the squad. 10 attacks on the charge with chain fists. Dreadnoughts, anyone? Guys, wow. All right, so yeah. So these guys are really good. These guys are really good. I just don't see people using them properly. All right, it's the whole Horus Heresy 180-degree obtuse tunnel vision on Terminators. Okay, they're not fire drakes. They're no good. Okay, all right. So the only thing is, though, as mentioned before in the video, understand that there is a negative, right? So there's always a negative. The downside is if you do go that route with having your 10 attacks with chain fists on the charge, one of the things is, because remember I told you about before, you're not going to get your +1 to hit with Hydra Exemplar because your Medicae, even though your Harrower has it, your Medicae doesn't have the Hydra Exemplar trait, and the whole unit must entirely have it. Okay? But you know what, guys? I don't think I even care at that point. Okay? Because, you know, I reckon I'd rather the extra chain fist attacks, or I'd rather the thunder hammer in there at weapon skill 5 at very least. And then I still get my 5 chain fist attacks with my Harrower. You know, on my, you know, invulnerable save 4, 2 up save, feel no pain 5 up, rerollable, it will not die, you know, Terminator squad. With a Harrower with 3 wounds as well. Who said these guys were shit, sorry? Okay, time to go to school. So, one of the biggest downsides, obviously though, of them is Zone Mortalis, okay? The problem is that if you start to do this as well with the character combinations I'm telling you about, then they're going to get really expensive very fast because, you know, you got to pay your reserve points to bring them in. Now, I wouldn't recommend in Zone Mortalis having your Warlord with Lernaeans, okay? And, you know, your Warlord should always go with Command Squad Terminators, okay? Weapon skill 5 all across the board, guys, okay? So, Thunderhammers, weapon skill 5, Vexilla, that's a Command Squad. Your Warlord, in my opinion, there's very few circumstances where your Warlord should not be in a Command Squad. But, you know, you could put a Chaplain in here with Thunderhammer. You could put your Medicae in here, which I think is a better option. But the problem is, unlike your Warlord, who's only going to be 2 points because of the discount you get on reserve points in Zone Mortalis for them being a Warlord, you will not get this on the Lernaean squad if it's not your Warlord. So they're going to be 4 reserve points to bring in because you're bringing in a character and you're bringing in an elite choice. So it's just something to think about there with that. It's a bit of a negative, but AOD, go to town, guys. Hydra Dominatus. All right. So we mentioned the 10 chain fist attacks. Awesome. And mentioned that already. So we'll skip through that. Weapon skill 4, they have weapon skill 4, but as I said, the weapon skill 5 from the Medicaes can mitigate it. All right, special weapons can benefit to the squad. I went through that. Medicae synergizers. All right, I went through that one. And yeah, so another recommendation is take 1 or 2 squads, load it out along with a large unit of Invictus Caesaran with rewards of treason. All right, and that helps you basically to mitigate the Invictus Caesaran, because they're not as good as Fire Drakes, but because they're points efficient, they're more points efficient, that can actually help you offset some of the tax on the Lernaeans. And the Lernaeans will have line and things like that as well. I believe they also can be compulsory troops as well in the Pride of Legion Rider War. So that's how you could sort of, push and pull your list a little bit to make them a little bit less expensive, and that's to basically save costs on other units in the game. Okay, so once again, the conversion beamer we spoke about. Okay, sit back and blind people. And that's it for this video, guys, all right? So, look, I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing to the channel. I hope I was able to offer you something new. The adding in the Medicae, synergizing those buffs with the Chain Fist and the Power Dagger on him as well, isn't something that I'd seen picked up on the internet. I will be putting up my Alpha Legion list for the event soon, so stay tuned to the channel for that. And I will be putting up other lists and going through other tactics as well for the Alpha Legion. So please consider liking and subscribing and sharing the video. Fantastic. So what is my final Does It Blend rating? All right. So Alpha Legion, it's never quite direct. So if you're an experienced player and you're good at playing the game, and you're good with Alpha Legion, and you're experienced with Alpha Legion, and you want to put the mental gymnastics into thinking 3-dimensional in high ceiling situations, right? Working with the rest of your list to offset some of the higher points costs associated with Lernaeans, then I will give these guys an 8 out of 10 on the blend. Yes, that's right. I actually like these guys. I think they're really good. I am taking them to a national tournament. All right? Fight me, guys. Okay? I like them. I think 2 squads competitive might be too much unless it's AOD with the conversion beamers. But 1 squad is competitive, can be competitive in any game, okay, in Horus Heresy. Now, I think without thought, without that high-level investment, that mental gymnastics investment, I think they do go down to about a 7 or 10, and they can be extremely mediocre with all their buffs because, unless you play them very strategically, yeah, they're going to sort of falter against... They're not going to perform as well against some of the better Legion Terminators in the game, okay? But they're certainly not the worst, okay? They're very situational, much like Atramentar, much like Kontakar. But when you do get them into situations, they will pay off for you in return on investment. Weapon skill 5, if they had weapon skill 5, it says here, I think they'll be A tier. I think they're just below. They're either on the top of B tier or just on the lower end of A tier when it comes with the Lernaeans. But I reckon, they wouldn't be S tier because you can't take Thunder Hammers on the entire squad. So so they'd be A tier if they'd be weapon skill 5. I'd put them top of A tier. But the biggest thing is they can't take Thunder Hammers. That's one of the biggest negatives on the squad. So, but characters can, that you attach, as we discussed, okay? The thing is with them is that they will put in serious work for you in multiple engagements, in multiple situations through the entire game, and they can work for you non-stop through the entire game. they're just a cataphracti brick, you know, the humble cataphracti Terminator brick with line, okay? And they're a solid choice, all right? They're a great, unpredictable generalist Terminator that's going to keep your opponent guessing what the F are these guys going to do, because they can do just about anything in the game. You know, are they going to bully my tactical squads or my veterans, right? Are they gonna sit on that line all game? Are they gonna snipe with conversion beamers? Are they gonna move off the objective and just sort of push up in a surprise? Are you gonna sling them across the board with your special legion reaction trait within 12? I actually forgot to mention that before. You can sling them across the board with your special reaction, because you can actually move them forward 12. You could put them in a Spartan or something. When you get shot at, you can then go through and then, measure 12, roll the scatter dice. You might even get lucky. You might even get a further 6 or something, right? So these guys can actually be very fast in the right situations. They are a really, really, really good generalist unit. All right, everybody. I'm Brother Stevanius. This is Command Center Wargaming. I hope you liked the video. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget to let me know in the comments down below what you want to see next. Take care, everybody. Keep rolling.